Turning to Kash Patel, he is, of course, Trump's pick to head the FBI. He was back on the Hill yesterday for a second straight day of meetings. Patel met with key Republican senators Thom Tillis, Lindsey Graham, and Mike Lee. All three have signaled they will support Patel's nomination. Senator Graham posted this photo on social media after the meeting, endorsing Patel's nomination, writing, Kash promised to get the FBI back on its original mission of protecting America, and that the days of the FBI leadership having their thumb on the scale politically will be over.
Is there anything in there about him saying he was going to arrest members of the press?
Nothing.
Because they didn't support the Stop the Steal conspiracy theory?
And put the shoe on the other foot. Can you imagine if Joe Biden or Barack Obama or someone else had nominated someone who said, we're going to arrest members of the media at Fox News or Newsmax or Democrats? Please.
Locusts descending from the sky.
We know exactly what would happen. Former Congressman Tulsi Gabbard also continued her Senate meeting yesterday. Trump's choice to be Director of National Intelligence had scheduled visits with Senators Tom Cotton and Jim Risch, along with Senator-elect Bernie Moreno. Some of the concerns about Gabbard due to a secret meeting she had in 2017 with Syria's now deposed president, Bashar al-Assad. Senator-elect Moreno brushed that off, telling reporters after his meeting, Gabbard said she, quote, serves at the pleasure of the president. So this is ultimately President Trump's foreign policy, not any one member.
No advice and consent anymore? Is that what he's saying?
That's what a lot of them are saying.
Could we get him a Constitution to read? I know he's new to the Senate, but maybe he should read the Constitution. They have the right to advise and consent. And when somebody is like a puppet for Assad or a puppet for Putin, if you just look at what they say, I mean, yeah, advise and consent. Still supposed to be alive and well in America.
Yeah, and that's, John, what we've been hearing a lot. We heard it from Ted Cruz yesterday. President Trump won a mandate. He's the president of the United States. He deserves to have his people put in, which totally ignores the advice and consent. Now, Ted Cruz had to be reminded that he voted against many of Joe Biden's picks to be in the cabinet.
That's a deeply shocking revelation there, Willie. I mean, this is how this works. Yes, we know that Donald Trump, yes, he won. He won by about a point and a half. Yes, Republicans have control of the Senate and the House, slim margins. They're treating this like it is a landslide, and that Trump should just, the Senate should just be a rubber stamp for whoever Trump wants. There are a few Republicans who have balked at that, at least privately, and we will see if they do so publicly with some of these picks. Mitch McConnell is one. McConnell took a fall yesterday. He says his office says he is okay. But McConnell, Collins, Murkowski are the three we talk about the most. But there are other senators who might weigh in on different picks. We talk about Joni Ernst a lot in terms of Pete Hegseth, but others have real concerns about the FBI Director Choice Patel, and then certainly Tulsi Gabbard, Joe and Mika, who, especially with Syria front and center in the news again, many have said this is not the right woman for this moment.
That's bringing right now MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle, U.S. Special Correspondent for BBC News, Katty Kay, and Rogers Chair in the American Presidency at Vanderbilt University, historian John Meacham. Katty Kay, you look across the globe, especially in the Middle East, but also in Eastern Europe. Things are more fraught now than ever before, yes. Assad is gone. Yes, Iran is beaten down. There are a lot of positive signs. Of course, the Russians continue to just take massive casualties. The ruble's falling. There are a lot of great opportunities. There are also a lot of opportunities, though, for chaos that could lead to regional or world wars. The prospect, I would think, not only of people on the Hill, but also across Europe, the prospect of having somebody like Pete Hegseth or Tulsi Gabbard in two of the most important foreign policy positions in America and the world, it has to be chilling for our allies and also for many Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, the world has not got calmer since Donald Trump was elected. I think that is a fair assessment. I had a chance on Sunday night to be at an event here in Washington. There were a whole bunch of senators there, and I asked a couple of them, what they thought of Tulsi Gabbard's pick, given what had happened in Syria literally over the weekend, hours beforehand. And they kind of rolled their eyes and just, shook their heads in some kind of dismay. There are Democrats amongst them. This is going to be a challenge for them, and we don't know what more material might come out of Syria in connection with Tulsi Gabbard? Are there documents there that could be damaging to her? She is somebody who has, on several occasions, sided with the point of view of America's adversaries. She was already under scrutiny as DNI, but now I think the events in Syria have put her even further under scrutiny, and the timing of that's going to be very interesting. But you've got these other controversial picks as well. My understanding is that John Thune, the senator from North Dakota, has to think, how can I protect some of my senators? He can't have all the same senators go out and say no against all of the picks. And so he's coming up with some kind of a rotation scheme. Maybe it's Tom Tillis votes against one of them. Maybe it's Joni Ernst votes against one of them. Maybe somebody else votes against one of them. The thinking is they can probably get rid of 4, and that includes Matt Gaetz. But you don't want always to have the same senator, because that opens them up to too much fury from the MAGA crowd.
And by the way, this would happen all the time in the House, where somebody would say, I cannot vote against 5 of these bills. I'll take these 2, you take those 2, you take that 1, and there is a rotation. So when you go back, you go back to your district or you go back to your state, go, yeah, I voted against 1 of his elections,
well, and these
but I voted for
Trump.
15 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So 15 out of 16, that ain't too bad. So that rotation, rotate the crops. It makes a lot of sense.
Mike Barnicle, another part of this is, of course, the actual hearings that these nominees will have to go through. And I would think that for some of these nominees, they would be especially brutal, especially Pete Hegseth, given what we know already.
You know, Mika, the Senate used to be described as the greatest deliberative body in the world. I don't think you can apply that description to the United States Senate of today, given what we're dealing with. We have a group of people, 3 people that we just mentioned here. Character is all, as the Jesuits would say, but in these cases, competence is the issue. Look at the Middle East. Caddy was just talking about the Middle East. Is Syria on the verge of becoming a failed state, or is it a failed state already? The German government is in a state of near collapse. The French legislature has been disbanded, and they're going to have another election probably this spring. Ukraine, what's going to happen with Ukraine? All of this depends on partially at least 2 of the nominees, Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth, doing their jobs competently. They can't do their jobs competently because they're not fully qualified for those jobs, and yet they're nominated for those jobs. So it's going to be up to the Senate, the United States Senate, to stand up, advise, consent, and then vote. And we're going to find out which senators have the courage to do absolutely the right thing in defense of the United States of America.